Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out my channel. And today it's a little bit warm out. My cold's still lingering, but I need to work on a mower. So let's go down and take a look at it. And I'm going to show you some things that you better be aware of if you're going to attempt to change your own blade. So let's go down and look at what I got going on. It's about 35 degrees out today, which is considerably warmer than it has been. We actually had a little snow the other day. Typical March. So here is the mower. I don't know if you have one like it, but it's a Craftsman. So this is a 6 horsepower. This is a typical Briggs engine. And when the guy dropped it off, right away I could tell that they don't necessarily take care of the mower the way that they should. This is why I know that. You have to keep all this clear if you're going to use it as a mulching mower. And this here, you cannot have debris packed underneath this cover. If you do, you're going to cause the transmission not to be able to move whenever the cable's engaged, and also it's going to cause premature wear on the belt. The customer's complaint is a vibration, and they just want an overall tune-up for spring. But they want me to call them and let them know if the mower's worth saving. These are pretty decent mowers. I'd say it'd be okay, but I am concerned about these wheels. You can see here. This could cause him to spend $100 right away. These wheels aren't exactly cheap, and if they don't work, I don't necessarily think that a self-propelled mower is a good thing to have. And a lot of people say, oh, just disconnect everything and use it as a normal mower. If this wasn't a self-propelled mower, this would probably be the front edge of the mower. There's no sense in all this extra out front. That all adds weight. So let's go ahead and jump into this. I already taken a peek at the blade. I want to show you what they did to cause the vibration, and then we're going to look at the wheels and see if there's something I can do about that. All right, so you can see I've got the mower getting ready to be tipped, and I want to show you what you need to know about tipping mowers. A lot of people don't know this, and if you do, sorry, I'm just going over some remedial stuff because a lot of problems happen because of this. This is the air filter or air cleaner, whatever you want to call this, but the carburetor is behind it. So the carburetor's on this side of the engine. It's on the right-hand side of the engine. The carburetor's almost always on the right-hand side of the engine for all these push mowers. Here's the spark plug out front. When you tip a mower on its side, the first thing you want to do is disconnect the spark plug for safety reasons, because you may turn the blade and there is some slight chance that somehow the kill switch isn't working and it could kick over. And with that blade there, you just don't want to take a chance. So whenever you have that lead disconnected, the mower can be tipped in 2 ways. Carburetor up, spark plug up, one or the other. Carburetor up or spark plug up. Now, there's a chance that when you have it carburetor up, like I'm going to do, that some of the oil could run into the exhaust. No big deal. You're going to start it up and it's going to burn off. But most likely not. Whenever you have it up, try to make sure that you don't turn the blade any more than what's necessary. So let's go ahead and turn this up on its side. Sorry about the vibration on the camera. And here's what I want to point out. If you're going to try to change the blade yourself, you got to realize there's a reason that there's these holes in the blade. And that's to line up with studs that come off of the blade adapter. And you can see here, this guy just tightened it down. He didn't really line it up or anything. So it's a 9/16 bolt that holds this on. Let's go ahead and back this off. Again, sorry about the noise. And you can see in this case, this guy has actually broke one of the studs completely off of the blade adapter. I'm going to tighten this down. It has still one stud for alignment reasons. And now I'm going to check to see if he bent his shaft. Again, I don't really like spinning this too much, but what I'm doing when I turn this is looking at the center of the bolt to see if there's any movement. And I'll show you what you can do to see if that center's bent, because really when you're turning, there's no line of reference. You can take a wire, a coat hanger, and bend it around the housing here, let's say through the chute, and make a pointer basically to just barely touch that, and then spin the blade and see if that pointer is moving in and out on this bolt. That'll tell you if it's bent. So let me rig that up. I'll show you what I mean. There's nothing real scientific going on here. All this is a coat hanger that I bent up, and I have a pair of vice grips that's holding it in place. And it's just barely touching the edge of the bolt. So what you want to do is use that as a reference and watch the bolt as you turn. I could see for the most part that this thing is staying right on the edge of that bolt. So that's good. That tells me that his shaft is not bent. And that would have been something that we would have had to address, and I don't really like to mess with bent shafts too much. What I'm going to do at this point is start it up again to see if that vibration has gone away. I believe it will be, because there was nothing centering the blade on the shaft the way that it should have been. And then I'll address the wheels. So let's go ahead and start this thing up and see what it runs like. All right, so I definitely got to change a plan here. I was just going to fire it up. The problem that I have with a lot of customers' machineries that come in that want to keep it really cheap, and you'll probably have this too if you try to do this and keep it cheap, and that is just to get it running, there's a lot of work that needs to be done before you even get it running. So basically what I checked was the oil. You always should check the oil to make sure that it's safe to start. Last thing you want is a machine that's been dropped off for service and it blows up on you, and then the guy tells you, hey, that thing ran perfect, what did you do to it? So always check the oil. The oil on this thing is black and there's just a little tiny bit on the dipstick. So that tells me he didn't change it, and I need to change the oil just to get it to run. So there's going to be a charge there. Also, look at this air filter. That is crud. I mean, it's just black. Don't get me wrong. You're going to see this kind of stuff, but this isn't the kind of thing that people tell you, hey, I just need a tune-up and tell me if it's okay, if the thing's going to run or not. Yeah, you need a tune-up, but this shows that you've tipped it the wrong way, because this is full of oil. His blower housing, the cover, was held on with some sort of flat tip screws. Horrible. It bent up the gas tank mount. I'm going to have to do something about that. And then I took this cover off with it, didn't even have a screw. This I knew. This is not a big deal. This is just people not cleaning their equipment whenever they're done mowing. So what I'm going to do is put some oil in it, clean all this out, and just fire it up without an air filter. And I'm going to have to charge them for the oil regardless. Now don't think, oh, it's only, 16 ounces or whatever, and not a big deal, because you do this, 20 times a week, and that 16 ounces add up right away. Next thing you know, you need a case of oil. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to add some oil to it, or actually change the oil for him. I'm going to pull the spark plug. I'm going to clean it real quick on my wire wheel. It's a good idea to have something like this. This is a real soft brass, but boy, this does a good job cleaning spark plugs and stuff like that without destroying anything. Those wire wheels that are real stiff bristled, they're nice, but I'd rather have this. So let's go ahead and do a little bit more on this, and I'll be back. All right, something else I wanted to point out, and it's going to cause more work for this guy. Rodents love to sleep underneath this cover during the winter. I don't know why, but they just love it underneath there. Now in this case, this guy had a lot of grass that was packed up in all these areas, but this is a blower housing. This takes and blows air from the fan up on top down through the fins on this engine to keep it cool. If you have what I call a bad haircut trying to be hidden by a hat, the blower housing being the hat, and this is the bad haircut, you can see the little trimmings that are floating around here. So I'm going to have to take this blower housing off and clean out inside there, because you can't have that blocked. If you have that blocked, you will snap the connecting rod, and that's a bad thing. So let's go ahead and pull this off, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, I guess I should have showed you, if you haven't seen before, there's 3 bolts that hold the top of this tank. This is part of the tank to the blower housing. There's 3 5/16 bolts. Some older ones may have 4, but most of them have 3. And then there is a 3/8 headed bolt that looks like this here that goes through the gas tank and into the block right back here. Now you got to be careful. There's a spacer also that goes in between the tank and the block so that when you tighten this bolt down, you don't snap the tank. You don't want that to happen, so make sure you do that. Now that I've got this off, 3/8 bolt here, 3/8 bolt here, and 2 in the back, and I've got 1 more 5/16 bolt to remove the dipstick. All I'm going to do is take this bolt out, lift the dipstick slightly, turn the bracket out of the way, and then place it back down into the socket to keep dirt out of there. So let's go ahead and do that, and I'll come right back. Okay, so I took the cover off, and you can see, look at all this disaster going on. There have been no air getting through here. So I need to clean all this up. It doesn't look like rodents necessarily got in here, which is a good thing. But this is something in the north, mainly during the winter. If you've got where you're storing your mower, like everybody is all winter long, you need to look to see if there's grass packed up in here. Even if you don't, if you store it somewhere where you think there's no possible way rodents could get in there, if you're doing a lot of mulching and stuff like that, and your grass is this dry, flaky stuff, you got to clean this out. You got to keep this clean, or your engine will seize up. I mean, it'll seize up right now. Let's go ahead and clean all this up, put it all back together, and get back to what I was trying to do in the first place and start this thing up and then address these wheels. I actually, out of all the stuff that I've looked at so far, these wheels are what I'm most worried about. Let's go ahead and clean it up. I'll be back. The wheels were an issue. That front right wheel has wore out considerably, but what I did is I put a washer behind the nut. Sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. In this case it did, and it tightened the wheel up. It's considerably tight now. It does exactly the way it's supposed to. I cleaned all the debris from underneath that cover and the cover that's underneath. Sprayed a little carb cleaner in it, fired right up, runs fine. I had to set the RPMs, kick them up, which customers really appreciate that, because usually what happens over time is they ram it. I'll try to show you here. People ran this into trees and whatever, and it hits right on the arm that sets the RPMs, the high RPMs for this mower. And what it does is it knocks down your RPMs. So you got to bend this back out to put tension on the spring to bring the RPMs back up. Not a big deal, and customers love that though. They bring it in, and I've had them that they said, well, I've been mowing with it, but it just don't seem to have the power that it used to. And the mower's in perfect shape. Air cleaner, oil, everything. I mean, it's in great shape. It's just that arm has been bent in, and they're trying to mow at like 1900 RPMs. The RPM should be around 2800 to 3100 RPMs. So I bumped that up, and they can't believe it. They're like, oh my God, it's like brand new. Whenever you fold these handles up, be careful not to pinch these cables. That's the downfall of most of these cables. You loosen these wing nuts and then fold the handle down, which all these designs are meant to go into trunks of cars. You push these arms in, you squeeze them in down at the bottom. That allows them to go forward, and then this will fold backwards on top of the handle, and everything collapses to where it'll go in the trunk of a car. But everybody destroys these cables. To finish this out, what I'm going to do at this point, now that I see that the blade is fine, the shaft is fine, it runs fine, and of course I got to get an air filter, and give this guy a total and let him know that this thing's worth saving. Well, I hope this video helped you do something because there's a lot of stuff that needs done on these mowers whenever you get them in, and these guys just neglect them. They don't do the maintenance that they should. You have to lubricate your self-propelled. You have to keep all the debris from around the belt that drives the self-propelled. And then of course your air filters and oil changes. A lot of little things. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and stay tuned for more. Bye.